The views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Well, hello there, and welcome to Real Reviews. I'm Jameson Rabbit, and this week I'm so happy to be joined once again by my partner over here, it's Steve Sabatke. Welcome back, sir.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
The people spoke, I guess, and
they
demanded that I be brought back.
The mailbag was so full of letters. Bring him back.
Okay,
we
good.
Need him. Yeah, we're here to talk about a bunch of movies.
Yeah.
We're starting to get into good movie season, I feel like, as summer starts to kind of get its ugly head out this week. And I'm going to get us started with what we have on the marquee this week. It is the newest film from director Ben Affleck. It is a film called Air. Stars Matt Damon in the reuniting of Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. He plays Sonny Vaccaro. It's the story following Sonny Vaccaro, a talent agent basically for a third-rate shoe company in 1984. It's his job to find talented, marketable athletes, specifically basketball players, that Nike can afford and hopefully grow their struggling basketball shoe division. And he identifies a young player coming out of North Carolina that's the number 3 pick in the draft, but who is deemed too expensive for Nike and is also firmly attached to Adidas. Of course, this young athlete is Michael Jordan. This is a time in history where Converse was far and above the number 1 shoe. You know, everyone in the NBA in the early 80s was wearing Converse sneakers. They had all the NBA talent. Adidas was the big hot shoe in the hip-hop crowd at this time. And Nike was a distant third in the shoe business. Sonny defied orders, expectations, and reason as he begged and borrowed to pursue this young athlete that he believed to be the future of the sport, staking his career on it and possibly the financial life of Nike's basketball division as he refused to be swayed, pushing back against the guys who really want to play it safe. One of the guys is a guy named Rob Strasser, who is played by Jason Bateman, who's the man who's in charge of Nike's brand marketing, basically. And, of course, Phil Knight, who is the legendary owner and CEO of Nike, played in this film by Ben Affleck. And David Falk, who is Michael Jordan's agent, the super agent of the time, played by Chris Messina. And this film kind of beautifully tells the story of the world's most recognizable athlete without ever showing his face. And it's the Michael Jordan story in name only, and is really more focused on his parents, his mother played by Viola Davis, his father played by Julius Tenen. They're more important in this film. And Ben Affleck, as a filmmaker, seemed really focused on setting us in 1984. The movie opens with like a montage of remember 1984? Yep. This is here we are. Let's get into it, and then let's spin this yarn about.
Great soundtrack.
Oh, there were so many great needle drops in this movie. And I enjoy every time Affleck and Damon get together. I enjoy their team up, and they have a dynamic in this movie as they're kind of bickering back and forth that felt like, oh yeah, these are guys who bicker back and forth in real life. It's enjoyable.
So I'm going to say right at the beginning, I love this movie.
All right, good.
And one of the reasons why I loved it was the decision by Affleck to not cast Michael Jordan.
Huge decision,
as a full speaking character.
It would have distracted. You couldn't have found a guy to do it.
You're exactly right, because I read where he said that Jordan is so iconic, so larger than life. No matter who he put into that role, nobody would have believed it.
Absolutely.
Nobody would have believed it.
So we just see the back of his head and hear a voice a couple of times.
Yeah, and I know there's some people that are grousing about that. Oh, Jordan isn't in the movie. But I'm glad that he did that, because the story is not about Jordan.
Right.
I mean, he's the end, but we're talking about the means to the end, and that is the process that these people at Nike went through to get Jordan on board.
Right.
And that's Sonny Vaccaro and the people that you mentioned. And it just makes, to me, for a much better movie. As you said, it would have been a distraction to have him in there.
Absolutely.
So they just focus solely on what is going on at Nike, and
you turn the Michael side of the story. You give it to Viola Davis.
Yeah,
very capable hands in this.
Yeah, I mean she's not in the movie a lot,
right?
But the scenes where she is in is very effective.
Yeah.
And I read where Michael Jordan insisted that she be given the role
I love
as his mother.
She needs to be my mom.
But there's a scene where the Matt Damon character gives this monologue to Michael Jordan and his parents during the pitch meeting where they're pitching, the Air Jordan to the family. And during the scene, I don't want to give too much away, they're showing clips of, Michael Jordan highlights.
Actual archival clips.
Some good, some not good. Sure. And I thought that was smart on Affleck's part. But after it was over, I almost stood up in the theater and applauded because it is such a great piece of dialogue in this movie.
Yeah. It's some of Damon's best work.
Yeah, it is. Well, I kind of put it on par with his performance in Ford versus Ferrari.
Yeah, yeah.
Very, very similar. But I also want to give special recognition to a couple of actors who to me really stood out. Chris Messina, who plays David Falk, Jordan's agent.
Super agent.
There's a scene where Damon says, I'm going to go visit the parents in North Carolina and do an end around you. And Falk goes just absolutely ballistic with dialogue that we can't say on this show, obviously. That was hilarious. And the other one was Matthew Maher as Peter Moore.
Oh, yes.
The guy that developed the prototype
actually designed the
for the Air Jordan. He's one of those actors, you know him, you see his face, you see him on movies, you see him on television, but you always go, boy, what's this guy's name? And you can never figure out who he is. Yeah, he's one of those character actors. You just don't know his name, and he was really great in this as well.
He was. I loved how they put the story and the legend of the Air Jordan into historical context about why this shoe and this player wearing this shoe were so important and were bigger than just a shoe and a basketball player. And really, before Michael Jordan, there was no athlete who was his own brand.
Right.
At the time, they do a good job of emphasizing that brands grab players to attach to them. There was never a player who's like, I'm going to be the brand. I will lift you up. And Jordan, through the negotiations that his mother said in this, became the brand, and he empowered athletes to put the stakes on themselves. And we see those repercussions still happening now with name, image, license deals for athletes. Mm-hmm. It all kind of stems out of him betting on himself and saying, I'm the guy in this capitalist era of the early 1980s. It's amazing, and what he was able to monetize off this. I mean, he made more money off the Air Jordan brand than he ever did playing basketball.
Yes,
and continues to do so.
Yes,
because of this decision. Yeah. And I really love this. This is a film I feel like I will be revisiting again soon.
I will too.
I'm watching Matt Damon, and I think to myself, Is he like our best regular guy movie star? Like, he is able to play regular guy, schluppy guy.
I think
so well.
I think so. I mean, him, Tom Hanks, maybe.
Yeah,
they're kind of.
It's a short list, though.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, really phenomenal stuff. What did you end up giving Air?
I don't think I've done this before on this show. I gave it 5 stars.
Nice.
I mean, I couldn't think of anything that I didn't like about it.
I love it.
So 5 stars.
Yeah, I was hemming and hawing between 4 and 4.5. And sometimes I'm too tough. I end up giving it 4. I feel light on it. It's a great movie. It really is. I really, really enjoy that. So, all right, let's move on to what else we had on the marquee this week, sir. What do you have for us?
All right, I've got the Super Mario Brothers movie directed by Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelinek. It's based on Nintendo's Mario video game franchise. And the movie introduces us to the brothers, Mario, voiced by Chris Pratt, and Luigi, voiced by Charlie Day. They have dreams of making it big as plumbers in Brooklyn. They've developed a cheesy TV commercial promoting the business. We're also introduced to the brothers' family. I thought that was entertaining, but then the family disappears until the very end. But after a botched plumbing job, all hope appears to be lost for the brothers until they see on the news a story about a major plumbing disaster in Brooklyn. So they head out to save the city, but they end up being sucked into a pipe and separated. And Luigi ends up in the Darklands, which are ruled by the evil Bowser, King of the Koopas, voiced by Jack Black. Mario ends up in the Mushroom Kingdom, ruled by Princess Peach. That's Anya Taylor-Joy with the voice there. Bowser wants to marry Peach. He even wrote a song about it. And he says he's going to destroy the Mushroom Kingdom using a superstar, I guess. And if she refuses, he imprisons Luigi to blackmail Mario. He thinks Mario is competition for Peach's love. In the meantime, Mario teams up with the princess to battle Bowser and rescue his brother. The two head off to the Jungle Kingdom to seek the help of King Cranky Kong. He's voiced by Fred Armisen from SNL, and his son Donkey Kong, Seth Rogen, is that character. So will the Kongs help the princess? Will the princess marry Bowser? Will this reviewer stop eating mushrooms? Will Nintendo sell a ton of video games? I mean, if you haven't figured it out by now, I know absolutely nothing about Super Mario Brothers.
That's a pretty good intro on
I
it.
haven't played the game. I mean, I think I played Donkey Kong in an arcade once. But for much of the movie, I felt like I was watching somebody play the game on a very big screen. I mean, I get it. It's based on a popular video game franchise, but I thought there's just a ton of game elements in this movie.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is there's a ton of Easter eggs for people, and
I didn't know any of them.
Yeah, I'm sure for you it felt like I felt last week with Dungeons and Dragons. We're like, I don't know anything about this. I'm just kind of taking it in.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting things like I've played like all the Mario games. I'm not like massive into it. I've played them all, but I wasn't expecting the story of like Mario's daddy issues in this movie and like wanting to prove himself to his dad.
Yeah.
That seemed odd to me. I loved every time Bowser was on screen. The lovelorn Bowser, voiced by Jack Black,
that was the best.
Going for it,
yes.
And I mean, every time he was belting out a love ballad for Peach, Jack Black was fully into this role and having fun, and I was having fun every time he showed up. Whereas it felt like it contrasted sometimes to some of the other people who I felt were kind of bland. Seth Rogen just doing a Seth Rogen voice felt like he was just there, like I'll just do this, whatever. A lot of this movie felt kind of bland to me when Bowser wasn't doing his thing.
Well, I mean, it's the game. I mean, you see Mario has to go through some kind of a test to help the princess, and so he's jumping on different platforms and he's hitting power boxes, I guess.
Absolutely.
And
that's what you do. You gotta get the mushrooms. Gotta get the
he's eating
stars.
mushrooms, and then they have the cart race.
I just felt like this movie was made for really small children.
Yeah.
I'd expect it to be more for like the people my age, maybe 30s, 40s, who grew up playing these games, but it felt to me that it was more geared towards my daughter's age. And she loved it. But
did she love it?
Yeah, her and her friends absolutely loved it. It felt like it was a concerted effort to kind of play it safe with this movie because famously the original Super Mario Brothers movie, starring Bob Hoskins.
I read about it, but
legendary
I haven't seen
bomb.
It.
I mean, just
did you see it?
Oh, I remember watching it back then. I rewatched it recently. It's probably more terrible than I remembered it. But we've seen in recent years like the Sonic films have been very successful. Those are Sega, but they have showed that video game movies can work despite a long history of failures of video game movies. It got me thinking because of films that we had very recently. Like last week I was talking about the Tetris movie. We have the Barbie movie coming out soon. Dungeons and Dragons. That it's like we're really going into
running out of ideas.
Game and toy movies. Detective Pikachu, like all of these taking big game or toy properties, trying to translate them to the big screen. Very mixed results on that. And it felt like, to me, they kind of tried to play this one safe so they didn't lose. And they're making a ton of money because...
Well, I'm sure there's a game now, or there's going to be a game based on the movie.
And it's got a huge fan base. And, as Puss in Boots movie showed recently, if you get an interesting animated movie for kids, you can stay at the top of the box office for quite a while. Yeah. You can stay in there for a while.
Yeah, I mean, there were some funny moments in this.
Sure. Yeah.
But, when Bowser sings this song, Peaches, It's hilarious. And
loved it.
I read where the song is actually eligible for the Oscar for Best Song.
Oh, give me that performance of Jack Black in full Bowser.
Wouldn't that be a hoot to see Jack Black sing this song in next year's
I'm going to start the campaign a year out right now. Let's go.
That would be great.
Oh, I need that, yeah. So this isn't the movie. I mean, you're not the target audience for this.
No, I'm not.
But how did it work for you? What did you end up giving this?
2.5 stars. I mean, it looks good. I love the soundtrack. Anytime you can play Tempted by Squeeze in a movie, I'm on board.
All right.
But, needed less game, more story. I'm waiting for Pong, the movie.
Oh, boy. You talk about more story there.
Yeah.
And then it went left. And then it went right. I kind of agree. I enjoyed it. I wasn't blown away by it. I believe I ended up giving it 3 stars.
Okay.
Like, it's fun. And like I said, I love when Jack Black is on screen. And it's also fun, I find, when I go to movies, I take my daughter, take her friends. If they're really into it, it probably raises my level of enjoyment. After the movie, they all gave it 10 stars out of 10. And then... And then I joked and went way under, like, what'd you give it? I'm like, I don't know, 2.5, 10,
Nintendo doesn't care what you think.
No, not at all.
They
care about that target audience, and they got it. So, Super Mario Brothers movie, it's playing in theaters right now, making a ton of money. So, let's move on to our streaming spotlight this week. We turn to Netflix, right? Netflix?
Yeah, this is one I told you to watch.
You sure did. For a streaming film called Chupa from director Jonas Cuarón. He is the son of very successful Alfonso Cuarón.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay.
Stars Evan Whitten as a 13-year-old Alex, who is a shy, bullied kid who is sent to Mexico to meet his grandfather and his cousins for the first time after the death of his father. His grandfather, played by Damian Bashir, his name is Chava. He's a former Lucha Libre wrestling star who is now dealing with the effects of old age, probably Alzheimer's, maybe some concussions from his Lucha Libre career. His cousins are full of energy, love wrestling and adventures. There's a language barrier at first because Alex is raised, despite being of Mexican heritage, is raised without having learned Spanish and never really embraced his heritage, the food and everything like that. And so he is kind of ingrained into this heritage by his cousins, and he discovers something very early on when visiting, that he stumbles across a chupacabra cub, the mythical creature, which is feared by some as a goat blood-eating monster, but some in this village that they're in revere this thing. He's this little puppy cat thing with wings.
Oh, he's so cute.
All CGI. And we learn that this family has a history with this creature. But we also, of course, have to have someone nefarious chasing after this cute creature. And that man is played by Christian Slater. He plays Richard Quinn, a poacher of sorts, I guess, whose life mission is to capture one of these. He's there searching for one, claiming it'll have great value, of course. And when the adult chupacabra, the mother chupacabra, makes the news, the heat is turned up on everyone, and Alex takes in this baby cub and starts bonding with it, realizing that there's no need to fear it. And it's a classic idea that's used in children's films as long back as you can remember. Alex and this Chupa are both misunderstood. And this film felt like it was filled with very familiar themes to me. It did hit on some emotional tones, I thought.
Yes, it did.
I felt like it lacked some of the moments of the bonding between Alex and this cub Chupa.
Yeah, it did.
And doing things, showing them doing things and bonding. I felt like that was missing. But the moments when the Damian Bashir's character, the grandfather Chava, when he has moments of clarity where he realizes and he tells them, like, I don't remember things. Things are going, I'm losing it. But then sometimes, he's out, like, his moments I thought were really good, in his confusion and all that. It felt like a kind of a basic fun family flick.
Well, it's got some E.T. elements.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does.
Very purposeful ones.
But as I was watching this movie, I kept thinking to myself, why is this Christian Slater character even in here?
Yeah. I mean, just because you need one of those guys.
Well, do you really? I mean, I think they could have removed that part of the plot completely and still came up with a pretty decent film. because you could have focused more on the bond between Alex and the Chupacabra. I wish there were more moments of that. But they could have focused more on the grandfather. I thought Damien Bashir was just really good in this. More about him not being able to remember things, his past as a professional
and
wrestler.
More of Alex learning about his heritage.
Yeah, and that's the true theme of the movie. I mean, it's the boy learning to accept his extended family and also his heritage and his culture. I mean, he doesn't. At the start of the movie, he doesn't want to know anything about it. He just wants to play his video game.
Right.
That's it. So, they should have just gotten rid of that stupid subplot. I mean, how many times have we seen that where the evil scientist or the government agent is out to capture this mythical creature?
And it's weird because Slater's barely in the film. For a large chunk of the film, he's barely in it. Just kind of, and then when he shows up, it feels like, well, he should be twirling a mustache in this role.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much going on here that could have been expanded upon. I mean, I really wanted to see more elements of that story.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chupacabra is very cute.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be stuffed animals on the store shelves. I liked the characters other than Slater's. I thought the kids were actually pretty good.
I liked when the kids were together. I would have loved more of that, too. It's the cousins.
One of the kids only, knew Spanish.
Yep.
I like that the Mexican culture is pretty much celebrated in this film. There's a really strong sense of place. And there's some tender moments, and yes, I'm going to admit it, my eyes did well up a couple of times.
There's some emotional beats in here that work.
Yeah. I mean, one question that I had that was never answered was, I mean, they said the Chupacabras were killing the goats.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were or not. It didn't sound, well, I don't know.
The mystery is still out there.
Yeah. But I thought it was enjoyable enough.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun family flick. Some good moments. Kind of unremarkable to me. It was enjoyable in the time. But yeah, I felt like I've seen this movie a few other times too.
So, yeah, you've seen it a lot.
Yeah, for sure. What did you end up giving Chupa?
Not perfect by any means, but I gave it 3 stars. I think it's a little bit better than average, and I think it's a nice, sweet film that the whole family can enjoy.
I concur with your thoughts. I gave it 3 stars as well. It's fun.
It's worth sticking out, sure.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's sweet. So that's over on Netflix. Let's turn to our movie throwback this week. And sir, you picked a movie throwback that I don't think could have been more perfect for everything going on in this show. What do we have this week?
Well, it's baseball season.
Yeah.
Brewers are off to a great start. Sun Prairie West and East baseball and softball are off and running. So what better time to have as a throwback? A great baseball movie. And there's plenty to pick from. Pride of the Yankees, Field of Dreams, The Natural, all great. Mm-hmm. But there's one even greater, and that is Moneyball. Directed by Bennett Miller and released in 2011, it tells the story of how Oakland A's general manager Billy Beane, played by Brad Pitt, used data and analytics to field a competitive baseball team on a low budget in the year 2002. And Beane did the math with the help of his assistant, Yale economics graduate Peter Brand, played by Jonah Hill. And the roster moves and the lineup changes they make just completely baffle. The team manager, Art Howe, just played wonderfully by the late Philip Seymour Hoffman. He's just perfect in it. If you think that a movie about the inner workings of the back offices of a Major League Baseball team would be boring, believe me, it's not. I mean, I've seen this movie over and over again. It just captivates me every time I watch it.
Yes.
At times, it almost feels like you're watching a documentary. To me, that's how good it is. Kind of similar to Air.
Yep.
Because you see the inner workings of what's going on at Nike. Now, Moneyball was up for Best Picture, and there were several great movies that were also nominated that year, including The Descendants. Mm-hmm. And yes, Jameson, War Horse.
Oh, I hate that movie so much.
War Horse, great movie. But what movie won Best Picture that year? Do you remember?
2012 Oscars for 2011.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
You don't remember. The Artist.
Oh, sure. The silent film, The Artist.
Yes. Who
yes.
remembers The Artist? It was a silent film about silent movies. In my opinion, the trophy should have gone to Moneyball.
I remember really liking Hugo that year.
Yeah, Hugo was good.
Yeah.
But Pitt was also nominated for Best Actor. Mm-hmm. Jonah Hill for Best Supporting Actor. Unfortunately, they did not win. Philip Seymour Hoffman, he should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor as well. Now, there's a great scene in the film where Billy Beane and Peter Brand, Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill,
just saw it.
They're in there at Beane's office. They're making trades
Wheeling and
with
dealing.
other teams on the phone.
Best.
This goes on for quite a while, and the scene is not stuffy. It's not dry like you would expect it to be. It's just very engaging, thanks to the sharp writing and the performances of Pitt and Hill.
It's one of my favorite Brad Pitt performances, which says a lot. And I just love it. I love how he plays the man who's haunted by his past and is driven to prove something, and how he and Jonah Hill's character are able to kind of flip the traditional thing, and you see him fighting with the old baseball scouts. You don't know what you're doing, and how it all boils down basically to one player, Scott Hatteberg, played by Chris Pratt in this movie. Scott Hatteberg was a journeyman catcher who was basically on his way out of the league, and he became the central focus of this A's team. This is all true. I loved it. The inner workings of baseball, I just absolutely loved. Great performances. Like you said, this is a film that I rewatch. I revisit it a lot, and I love it each and every time. Interesting enough, though, in real life, the Moneyball theory, the sabermetrics never paid off for the Oakland A's as they continued to lose to the big spending Red Sox and Yankees. So it never had that. It worked for other teams, the Royals and the Rays were able to make that work for small market teams, but it's great. And I love digging into who Billy Beane was. I think that's the best part of it that makes it better than just a standard baseball movie.
Yeah, and there's a great side story with his daughter, who's always worried about, when the team's losing, her father's going to get fired. That was great. If you're a baseball fan, even if you're not a baseball fan, I would recommend watching
just love
this.
Good story.
It's just a great story, and I think, to me, there's a lot of great baseball movies out there, but to me, this is the best. I don't know if it's the best in your book.
It's tough. It's one of my favorite sports movies overall. It's one of the great baseball movies, but it's just a great character study, too. I absolutely love it. Moneyball, I was so happy when you recommended this one. I'll gladly rewatch Moneyball again. And it has a lot of echoes with Air, which
it really does.
You have a scene in Air where Matt Damon's character is arguing with the old scouts, basically, and you don't understand the new ways of doing this. This feels familiar. So, I really love Moneyball. Go check it out. Let's take a look ahead at what is coming soon. Sir, I'm looking at the weekend of April 21st. We have a few films. The first one is Beau is Afraid, Ari Aster's new film, starring Joaquin Phoenix as a son grieving his mother's death and dealing with guilt as he goes on a journey of crisis and realization, and I am so excited for this movie.
The trailer is just nuts.
Oh, man. Everything about crazy. It is great. We also have Chevalier, a biographical film of composer Chevalier de Saint-Georges, who rose to the heights of French society before an ill-fated affair with Marie Antoinette. Stars Kelvin Harrison Jr., Lucy Boynton, Minnie Driver, Samara Weaving. We also have a film from Guy Ritchie. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. I like how he puts his name in the title of this one, so you know which movie it is. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant follows Jake Gyllenhaal's character as an army sergeant who is saved by his Afghan interpreter and returns the deed by going to great lengths, returning to the war zone to retrieve him and his family before the Taliban can get them. Over on Hulu, for our streaming films, we have Quasi, which is a comedy following a hapless hunchback searching for love who ends up in the middle of a blood feud between the Pope and the King of France. This is from the guys over at Broken Lizard, the Super Troopers guys, bringing you this film. And then lastly, over on Apple TV, we have an action flick called Ghosted, starring Ana de Armas and Chris Evans as a couple on their first date who get caught up in an international adventure because one of them is a secret agent.
Okay.
I won't tell you who. It's going to be exciting. Before we move any further, we want to thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters. Thank you for sponsoring this program, showing us some movies. We do enjoy it for sure. Next week, I am going to be talking about films such as Nicolas Cage's Renfield, and it's the Wisconsin Film Festival is happening right now as you're watching this, is happening through the 23rd 20th. And so I'm going to be talking about a bunch of films that I see at the Wisconsin Film Festival. Usually I get in about 15 to 18 movies during that time.
Wow.
So
I'm just going to see one.
We'll pick and choose which ones, but come on out. Say hi to me at the film festival. Every year I have a couple of people like, hey, I know you. So come on out for that. But that's what I'll be talking about next week. Sir, thank you once again for joining me.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed this. We got some good movies to talk about. So, until next week, I'm Jameson.
And I'm Steve.
Thanks for watching.